What's going on, guys? Today I wanted to take a couple minutes to talk to you about the process to buy a home. So obviously each transaction is going to be a little different, but there are a couple things that are fairly typical and wanted to go over them just so that you guys are familiar with what's going to be coming in the process. So like most people know, it's going to start with the conversation with the realtor about, hey, we're looking to move, or what are the options, what's the market looking like, all that good stuff. And quickly it's going to move from there to let's see if what you qualify for or if you qualify. So that's going to be with talking to a lender, and they're going to do their job as far as making sure that you can qualify with your credit score. They're going to look at taxes, tax return history, pay stubs, all that good stuff. So I like to use someone local here in Arizona. I've got a couple partners that we work with that really help make the process go smoothly. So really appreciate them. They're going to help guide a lot of the financial side of what's going on, because they're also going to be providing the loan in the end for the house that we're looking to purchase. Next, from there, once we have a pre-qualification done, they're going to, like I said, look over the financials. They're going to give us a letter that says, hey, here's how much you can get a loan for, what type of loan it is, because that's going to be important for the listing agent when they're looking at all the offers. We're going to set up a search, and that's going to all be done on our computers. So you'll get emails saying, hey, here's stuff that fits your criteria. You can take a look at it. It's got the photos, details, all that good stuff. A lot of this is going to be automated and sent out to you to your inbox. So I've had people who will say, hey, thank you so much for sending me an email at 3 a.m. You are really on it. And in reality, it's the system that when someone uploaded a listing that matched the criteria, the system automatically sent it over to them. So yes, we are taking care of them, but we are not up at 3 a.m., 10 p.m., 4 a.m. doing all that stuff 24/7. So system really helps out with that a lot. I will go through and try and personally hand pick stuff, because every once in a while there will be things in there where it's like, this doesn't really fit. We can save things, discard things off of there as far as the property, just like your typical search. So I don't want to over glorify anything like that, but then we'd be able to go do showings. This is what we typically think of. So go take a look around. If it's a property we want to make an offer on, we can discuss the terms and then go from there. All right, so now if we've got the place, we've discussed the terms, we're going to put in the purchase contract. We'll write all the terms into it, send that over to them. We've got some paperwork that's going to have disclosures in it that we'll need signed before all that goes out to the listing agent. And in the end, a lot of your paperwork can start to stack up for a transaction. So we've got page after page for this. Good news is not all of it comes at once, which is good. So we've got it organized out, and we're going to break these down in future videos. But we've got some disclosures in our pile of materials right here. And then once the disclosures are filled out, purchase contract gets sent in. We're going to wait for the response from the seller. Right now in our market, that's usually within a couple days, because everything is on a quick turnaround. So once we have a response, if it is, hey, I'm sorry, we've gone with another offer, we'll go back, try and find another property. But if we've had our contract accepted, then we are going to open escrow. Now, once we are ready to open escrow, we're going to get in contact with the title company, and they're going to act as a third party in between the buyer and the seller to make sure everything happens fairly with the transfer of funds and the deed for the house. So we'll notify them, and within the first 24 hours, they're going to ask for the earnest money to be deposited. The earnest money is going to be designated in the purchase contract, and a lot of times we're going to see this as 1%, but like I said, this is, it depends on each transaction. So I don't want to lock anyone in to anything because it changes per person. But we're going to assume it's 1% of the purchase price of the overall purchase. Getting redundant with my words. Anyways, so if we'll use easy numbers. $100,000 house, it'll be $1,000. So $1,000 is going to go to the title company, and it'll sit in their account. Now, that money is not dead money. You're not kissing $1,000 goodbye. It is being set aside and will go towards the final purchase price or your down payment on the property. So the title company holds it basically and this is our way of saying, hey, we're serious, we've got money ready to bring to the table while we finalize the rest of our loan, but it is a way to show our seller that, hey, we're here to do business and not just look around. So that's going to happen within the first 24 hours. In the purchase contract, it is highly advised that we write in that we're going to have an inspection period. So we're going to schedule the inspection right away. We've got however many days in the purchase contract. The default is 10. We can edit that, obviously, just like almost everything else. But if we've got 10 days to do our inspection, we can hire an inspector to come out and professionally inspect the house. That is not a real estate agent because that is not in our job description, and legally we are not allowed to do that. So a professional inspector is going to go out there, take a look around the house. They'll test some things as far as the plumbing, some of the electrical. They're going to really check to see if there's any defects that are visually apparent. If there's anything that is hidden within the walls, they are not opening the walls to try and find something because they're not going to patch it back. They're there to do an inspection and use their expertise to say, here's something that is apparent and is an issue with this house. It's good to note that an inspection has to be paid for up front and will be a purchase that needs to be done by the buyer. So even if we don't close on the property, it's going to have to be paid for. If we close on the property, it has to be paid for because we contracted their services to come out and help us out. All right, so now we get the inspection report back from the inspector, and it's going to give us an opportunity to look it over to say, all right, here's what they found with the house as far as what's wrong with it, and we can decide if we want to continue with the purchase or if we want to cancel, or even if we want to go to the seller and say, hey, we'd like to get a credit for these issues. If there's an issue with part of maybe a patio and there's a quote that comes in from a contractor that says, hey, we think it's going to be $3,000 to make the fix. We might ask for a credit or we might ask for the seller to fix it. So that's a part of our inspection period. If everything looks good, we can sign that, okay, we're going to accept the house in the condition that it is, and we continue with our transaction. Throughout the rest of the escrow process, the mortgage lender is going to be getting some final documents. They're going to be working on finalizing the loan so that at the closing, we're going to be able to fully fund it. It's the nice term that they use, fully fund the loan and be able to pay for the deed on the house. So they're going to send us some loan status updates, which is another term for some of the pages in here. In some cases, there's going to be an appraisal that is done on the house, and this is where an inspector on behalf of the mortgage company is going to come out and take a look at the property. They're also going to do an analysis of the property in relation to those properties around it, because they're trying to establish, is this house sufficient collateral for the loan that they're about to give? If it's a house that's worth $100,000, but the loan is for $200,000, if for some reason the buyer gets upside down, they're not going to be able to recoup their money compared to if it is a $200,000 house with a $100,000 loan, they would be able to recoup their money pretty easily. So the appraiser is going to go out, they're going to do their check on it. This is another thing that is going to be paid for by the buyer. It will be paid for if the appraisal is scheduled. Let's say, for instance, that we cancel our contract to purchase the house before the appraiser goes out there. You would not have to pay for the appraisal services. But if we make it through inspection, we order the appraisal. When they go out there, they will have to be paid for their services. Now, sometimes this can get wrapped into the final closing costs, but that's something to discuss with your mortgage lender to give you the full details on all of that. All right, so now we're moving towards the end of the process, and one thing that I guess I did skip over is going to be HOA documents. If it applies, a lot of the communities here in Arizona have HOAs, and that has really started since the early 2000s that there's a mandate regarding the new communities having HOAs. So there are still communities that don't have HOAs, but if there is an HOA, that is something to pay attention to because they're going to have rules and regulations that the buyer gets to review before the purchase is finalized. Now, we've been under contract, earnest money has been deposited, we've gone through the inspection period, appraisal's been done, all that good stuff. If we get the finalization for the loan, we're going to be moving toward the end fairly quickly if everything was scheduled. So we should start to transfer over the utilities, or schedule the transfer over of utilities, and that would make sure that when you move in, the electricity and the water are not going to be turned off waiting for you to get that switched over with the electric and water company. So that'll be something that should happen several days out. Within at least, you're going to want at least 7 days to schedule the insurance for your house, all that good stuff. And then as we get closer to the end, we're going to have a final walkthrough. So the final walkthrough is going to be to make sure that the house is in the same condition as we saw it at the beginning in our showing, as we see it right before the buyer is going to move in. So there's a couple things that we'll look for, making sure that there's no damage to the property. Obviously, my funny example is always that they didn't throw a going away party for themselves and punch a whole bunch of holes in the wall because they were too excited and rambunctious at their party. Anyways, if everything's in good condition, we get to sign off on it. If it's not, then we send a notice to the seller that says, hey, we need these items to be addressed. If everything looks good there, the final documents are going to be signed with the title company. Now, a lot of times the title company will either have you come down to the office or their office, or they will have a mobile notary come out to you. Now, this means that they can either send someone to your work, to your home, whatever's going to be most convenient and what you're comfortable with, to be able to sign these documents to make sure everything's in order. So lender will be communicating with you to make sure that the down payment and the funds are going to be able to transfer correctly. Title company is going to do their part in helping with this. And on that day for the close of escrow, basically it should all change hands. Once that's done, the title company will record the deed has transferred to the buyer with the county. Once the county has recognized the new buyer, then they get to take possession of the house. And that's where you get the keys, mailbox key, all that good stuff. So you get to move in at that point, and basically our transaction is done. So the big things to kind of highlight along the way are going to be the earnest money deposit right up front. This is something that people sometimes don't know about, and so they're a little surprised that they have to pay some money right off the bat. The inspection they do have to pay for, that can be several $100s depending on the size of the house, depending on the service that are required, all that good stuff. The appraisal is going to be several $100s as well, once again, depending on the scope of work that they have to go through. There will be closing costs that are going to be involved, and that's something that you can talk to your lender as well as your title company about to get the final price on those. So this is a lot of the consideration that I wanted you guys to be aware of up front, so that there are fewer surprises than we need along the way or want along the way. So I hope this clarifies a lot for you guys. If you've got any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. I'll try and make sure I respond to them. And then, like I said, we've got some paperwork here that we're going to go through in future videos to try and dive in a little more to what these documents are, what they mean, and what that would require for the purchase of a home. Hope you guys have a great day and hope to see you back soon.